This is Mac OS Ken.
Evercore doubts the DOJ's Apple case. The Emulator space gets stranger. And a brilliant idea for Apple Vision Pro demos. It is Wednesday, the 17th of April, 2024. I'm Ken Ray, and this is news from Mac OS Ken, brought to you by yours truly and supported by people like you, patrons through Patreon. Find out more and add your support at patreon.com/MacOSCat. Evercore analyst Ahmed Darianani doesn't think the DOJ's case against Apple is likely to succeed. Apple 3.0 ran part of a note he wrote on Tuesday looking at three regulatory issues lined up against Apple: the DOJ case against it, the DOJ case against Google that could end up costing Apple, and questions around the Cupertino company's compliance with the EU's Digital Markets Act, far away and across the sea from here. When it comes to suing Apple, the Evercore analyst thinks the Justice Department may have overreached. According to his note, the case effectively alleges that Apple has an obligation to work with rival software and hardware makers to make sure their products integrate more smoothly with the iPhone. There is some Supreme Court case law here that supports Apple, as they have already ruled in 2004 that businesses can't be sued under antitrust law for not helping rival companies better compete against them. Darianani goes on to say that the Justice Department will have a hard time convincing a judge that Apple both maintains a monopoly on smartphones and uses that monopoly in a way that results in higher prices and hurts consumers. Additionally, he expects the company to defend its walled garden by saying that that wall defends consumers rather than hurting them. This defense was used successfully against Epic in 2021 and to defend iTunes in 2014, according to the note. Now, I kind of wish Apple 3.0 had run the bits on the Google case and the DMA as well, but then I guess they'd just be running his whole note. Whatever he said about the other two, Darianani is apparently unfazed. He maintains an outperform rating on Apple shares and a price target of $220. Developers got second betas of iOS and iPadOS 17.5 on Tuesday, according to a piece from Mac Rumors. Along with those, other pieces from the site say members of Apple's developer program also got second betas of macOS Sonoma 14.5, watchOS 10.5, tvOS 17.5, and visionOS 1.2. Two big features were found in the iOS beta. The first, yet another piece from Mac Rumors, says Beta 2 of iOS 17.5 lets users in the EU download apps from a developer's website rather than having to go to the App Store or a third-party app marketplace. The permission was granted as part of Apple's compliance with the Digital Markets Act, though it's not the free-for-all for which some had hoped. On the developer side, the piece indicates that the selling developer needs to be part of Apple's developer program for 2 consecutive years or more. The app in question has to pass Apple's notarization process, and the app in question has to have recorded 1 million annual first installs or more on iOS in the EU in the prior year. Developers able to run that gauntlet then have to put up a hurdle for prospective buyers. According to the report, when an iPhone user in the EU visits a website to install an app, users will need to grant express permission for that developer to install apps to settings. It's not an insurmountable hurdle, but it's not buy with one click either. Oh, and developers have to pay a €0.5 core technology fee for each annual install over 1 million in the past 12 months. That said, the piece says the fee is waived for non-profit organizations, accredited educational institutions, and government entities. You know, one almost gets the feeling Apple doesn't want developers or buyers to take that route. The other big feature isn't actually a feature, but a fix. Remember that iMore story that said the emoji menu in iOS 17.4.1 was showing a Palestinian flag emoji when users search for the word Jerusalem in some countries? Yeah, the latest iOS beta fixes that. If you've not seen that happen, that is not surprising. The issue was only showing up for users whose keyboard was set to English UK, English Singapore, or English South Africa. It's in the past now, or will be when iOS 17.5 sees release. A piece from Apple Insider says that site has confirmed that the bug is fixed in the latest iOS developer beta. What a crazy couple of weeks it's been for retro game console emulators for iOS. Started roughly 2 weeks ago when Apple changed the app review guidelines to allow such emulators in the App Store. That was followed fairly quickly by Apple approving a Game Boy emulator called iGBA. That was followed even more quickly by Apple removing iGBA from the App Store for straight-up copying an older emulator, Riley Tested's GBA for iOS. Then, just a day or so later, along came a new old console emulator for the App Store, one that seemed to be legit. Mac Rumors had word of Bimmy. Developed by Tom Salvo, the piece identified Bimmy as the first approved Nintendo Entertainment System, or NES, emulator for iPhone and iPad. On the App Store, said the report, Bimmy is described as a tool for testing and playing public domain and homebrew games created for the NES, but the app allows you to load ROMs for any NES games available for download online, such as Super Mario Bros. And Donkey Kong. Not that that is cool as far as Nintendo is concerned, though some of the games are nearly 4 decades old now. Ay, my back. The Game Maker's website says the downloading of pirate copies of Nintendo games is illegal. Excited to give Bimmy a go? Well, you cannot. It is off the App Store, this time pulled by the developer. A piece from Cult of Mac has Salvo saying on the Mac Rumors forum, "I am so sorry, everyone. I removed the app out of fear. No one reached out to me pressuring me to remove it, but I'd rather not have the risk." Cult of Mac figures that while the app's description spoke of public domain ROMs, most people would probably have been going for the ROMs of actual Nintendo games. Illegal perhaps, but easily available online. This is software piracy, says the cult, and Salvo was likely nervous about making an application that would be involved, lest he end up meeting Nintendo legal. Apple has opened its 4th developer academy in Indonesia. Apple Insider says the Cupertino company has announced a new facility in Bali, which the piece says will have a 9-month program teaching coding, marketing, and all the skills to create apps. Over 2,000 students have attended Apple's Indonesian academies since the first one opened in 2018, according to the company. Quoted speaking on the program, Apple CEO Tim Cook said, "We've seen many times over that a line of code can change the world, and in Indonesia, we're investing in the creativity and skills of people determined to prove it. We're excited by the growing developer community in Indonesia, and we look forward to investing in the success of even more coders with our 4th academy in the country." Apple is apparently doing something genius with its in-store Apple Vision Pro demos. A piece from 9to5Mac says code in this week's 2nd developer beta of iOS 17.5 shows the company working on a new system that will let customers transfer their own spatial videos to a Vision Pro demo unit in an Apple store. The piece says the system, known internally as VPG Photo Retail Experience, facilitates an encrypted file transfer from an iPhone to a Vision Pro unit. There will be a limit to how many videos can be transferred so that the process doesn't take too long, according to the piece. The report goes on to say that the files will be deleted immediately after the demo session for privacy reasons. If you'll pardon me saying so, this is genius. Watching video of some kid blowing out candles on a birthday cake is impressive. Watching your kid or grandkid blow out candles on their birthday cake, how are you going to walk away from that? Seriously, if this happens, it is genius. If your Vision Pro use case is less about fun, more about function, Mr. Softy's got something for ya. Another report from 9to5Mac says Microsoft on Tuesday launched a native OneNote app for Vision OS. If you're not familiar with it, OneNote is an infinite canvas note-taking and collaboration tool, kind of like Apple's Freeform. Or really, Apple's Freeform is kind of like OneNote since OneNote came out 10 years ago. If Vision OS can be said to be old hat for anybody, it can be said for Mr. Softy. Microsoft has been one of the companies providing Vision OS apps since the launch of Apple Vision Pro, according to the report. The company has released such Office mainstays as Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and Teams for Vision OS. Fun is so close to function. We'll wrap the day with titles for Apple TV Plus, one returning, one brand new. On the news show, the Cupertino streamer issued a press release Tuesday announcing a new thriller series called Down Cemetery Road. If you said that it was based on books written by Mick Herron, the same author who wrote the books on which the Apple TV Plus series Slow Horses is based, that would be enough to get me to watch. If you told me that Luther actress Ruth Wilson was in it, that would be enough to get me to watch. If you told me that Emma Thompson was in it, that would definitely be enough to get me to watch. Tell me all three of those things and I'm just bummed I can't watch it right this minute. Describing the series, Apple says when a house explodes in a quiet Oxford suburb and a girl disappears in the aftermath, neighbor Sarah Tucker becomes obsessed with finding her and enlists the help of private investigator Zoe Baum. Zoe and Sarah suddenly find themselves in a complex conspiracy that reveals that people long believed dead are still among the living, while the living are fast joining the dead. Commenting on the series, Jay Hunt, creative director Europe Apple TV Plus, is quoted as saying, Down Cemetery Road has all the hallmarks of Mick Herron's funny and acerbic writing, and I'm delighted that we will be bringing it to life for Apple TV Plus with such a stellar cast. Emma Thompson and Ruth Wilson will make it an unmissable companion piece for Slow Horses on our service. Shut up and consume my viewing time. No indication in the release as to when Down Cemetery Road will premiere. And finally today, for those dying to go back underground, news on the second season of Apple's dystopian sci-fi drama, Silo. Cult of Mac highlights an interview in Collider with Silo star Rebecca Ferguson. Not only is Season 2 filming finally complete after delays, the piece says there are hints in the interview that third and fourth seasons are coming too. Now, I've not read the books, but Cult of Mac says 4 seasons would match the source material with an apparent plan to spread the 3 books over 4 seasons. How do 3 books match 4 seasons? Ferguson says that's the way the books go. Quoting Ferguson, the books are the books, it's 3 books, and the 3 books are divided into 4 seasons. She seems to indicate that they might shoot Season 3 and 4 at the same time to efficiently bring the show to a logical end from a production standpoint, according to the cult. That said, the piece points out that Apple has yet to greenlight the show beyond the second season. macOS Can, brought to you by me and supported by people like you, patrons through Patreon. Find out more and add your support at patreon.com/macOSCan. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media, online at backbeatmedia.com. You can reach me a couple of ways. Info at macoscan.com or call 716-780-4080. Until next time, that is news from macOS Ken. I'm Ken Ray.
Ciao.